papers each?
2 papers each.
Okay.
The one printed. Oh, wait, I better keep one. Here are my notes, too. Right.
Pull them up, whatever you
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay.
No. It is. I talked to the detective. It is a missing persons report. I just got back. So I'm kind of like holding two emails. You understand what I'm saying? But we did get a hold to the detective today. And we did get that. I'm gonna have Olivia to call you to give you that information because I'm just now coming out of the meeting. But she'll tell you everything and she'll tell you who the detective is. Okay?
Testing for WebEx.
That must be a total waste.
Testing for
Metro TV, 30 seconds. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee on the Efficiency of Boards and Commissions. It's Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, and this meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A. I'm the chair of the committee, Councilwoman Jennifer Chappell, and I'm joined today by my co-chair, Councilman Kevin Bratcher. I'm also joined in chambers today by committee members Councilman J.P. Leninger, Councilman Kevin Kramer, Councilman Scott Reed, and then joining us virtually today, we've also got Councilman Marcus Winkler. Item number 20-085-25 is being held at the request of the sponsor, and we will not be discussing that today. Instead, today we've got 4 committees coming before us. That will be the Tree Advisory Committee, and this will be the order in which they'll appear before us. The Tree Advisory Committee, the Air Pollution Control District, the Hazardous Materials Ordinance Appeals and Overseers Board, and the Waste Management District 109 Board. I just want to remind everyone that we're just here to gather information. We're not taking any action on any items today, but at the end of all of our, let's say, investigation, we're going to assemble a list of recommendations that we're going to ask be applied to all of the boards and commissions which come before us at the end of this year. So again, we're not looking for anything in particular. Nobody is in trouble. We're just trying to gain a better understanding. And so we really appreciate all of you all coming here and helping us gain that understanding. Since we do have an hour and a very packed agenda, I have a timer and I will be setting that. And so once you hear it go off, your 15 minutes are up. Of course, we would love to learn more about you and ask all of the questions, but again, we only have a finite amount of time. Don't worry, I don't have a shepherd's hook or anything of the sort, but I'm gonna, expect you all to excuse yourselves. With that said, if you have a presentation, which I believe most of our presenters do today, please make sure that you're allowing us time to ask questions. So if you have a presentation, maybe do that in like 5 or 10 minutes and then leave the remainder of your time, 15 minutes, to allow us to ask those questions. And with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and invite the Tree Advisory Committee to come on up, TAC. I believe we're going to be joined today by Cindy Sullivan, and I'll give you a rundown before she comes up, just with the facts for my colleagues to consider. So there's no KRS statute authority. They are under a Louisville Metro ordinance. They meet on the 3rd Wednesday of every odd month, and there's 1 vacancy, and there's a maximum number of 15 members. Full disclosure, I am a member as of this year on the Tree Advisory Committee, and I'm thrilled to be there. But with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Chappell. And as Councilwoman Chappell said, in 2017, the Public Tree Protection Ordinance was passed by Metro Council. It's ordinance number 221, series 2017, and it was passed to outline the duties and responsibilities of the Community Forestry Department and the responsibilities that they have, as well as creating the Louisville Metro Tree Advisory Committee. The purpose of the Tree Advisory Committee is specified in the ordinance. There are 6, I think, specifications. The biggest one is to provide recommendations to the mayor and to Metro Council as needed in response to amendments, perhaps, to this ordinance and the Louisville Metro Land Development Code, as well as the comprehensive plan. The ordinance also specifies, as Councilwoman Chappell said, 15 very specific members 2 certified arborists, 1 registered landscape architect, representatives of the nursery industry, environmental interest organizations, public utilities, underground and above ground, and the building industry of Louisville, Greater Louisville, Inc., and Jefferson County League of Cities, and 3 at-large members from across the county. The TAC has established bylaws, and we have 4 standing committees: our executive committee, our committee for advocacy, our committee for community engagement and outreach, and forestry practices. Currently, we also have 1 ad hoc committee, and that is our legislative committee, because we realize that this ordinance does need some revisions. So we are working on that language so that we can come back to you and see if we can amend this ordinance to be a little bit more complete. And we also have several pages on the LouisvilleKY.gov website. We're under urban forestry, and you can see our board members, our bylaws, meeting dates, and all of that, minutes from the meetings, et cetera, et cetera. We are currently focused to begin the implementation of the Louisville Urban Forest Master Plan. And a little bit of background on that. In December of 2023, Metro Council did allocate funding for Trees Louisville to conduct a comprehensive plan for Louisville's metro urban forest. And the Louisville Tree Plan is a long-term, very comprehensive plan for addressing the many challenges that our community faces by best utilizing and stewarding our urban forest. Because any fourth grader can tell you that trees clean the water, they clean our air, they reduce heat, and all of those things. And it's not just the environmental benefits, it's also the social benefits. Trees do provide social cohesion for neighborhoods, better mental health for residents in the area, so it is really a very important part of our community. So I have in your packet, there are a summary of what I just said, and then also the findings and strategies for the Urban Forest Master Plan. And again, strategy number 1 that our consultants developed for this master plan is to improve the coordination of actors, refine roles for the highest impact, and action 1.1 is actually form a coalition for plan implementation over the first 10 years. And it seems reasonable to have the Tree Advisory Committee be the beginning of that coalition. So I think that the import of this committee is going to increase over the next few years as we work on implementing the Urban Forest Master Plan. I wanted to keep it quick in case you have questions.
And that was that?
That's that.
That was that. Okay. Could you, while I wait for my colleagues to get in queue, could you also touch on how the LEFI and how that's connected to the Tree Advisory Committee?
Okay, so LEFI is the Louisville, all right, I'm going to get this, Louisville Equitable Forestry Initiative, right? LEFI. And that was a proposal that Urban Forestry submitted to the federal government. They did a fabulous job on getting that application in, and they were awarded $12 million to spend over the next 5 years. That money can only be spent in designated areas that the screening tool, climate and environmental justice screening tool, has been used to determine the eligibility of those areas. That's only 23% of our community, and I did give some of you a packet that does show the J40 areas in your district. And then the other thing that's important to point out is that is only for public property. So Urban Forestry has hired 5 new arborists, and they have started with guns a-blazing. They've gotten a lot done. They've taken out more than $500,000 worth of old, dead, declining trees, which is wonderful, and planted 1,000 trees, which is great. And again, one of the major purposes of the Tree Advisory Committee is to ensure that urban forestry gets the support that it needs, whether that is in the form of advocacy or recommendations on improvement. I will tell you that urban forestry at this stage of the game, with the new hires that they have and completing their, with their seasonals, they are in a building that was designed for 8 people. It's a former police building that was supposed to house 8 people, and there are now 30 people in that building. So I think one of the other initial strategies for the Urban Forest Master Plan is to figure out how to better utilize space for urban forestry to get them, and it's also located in East Louisville, nothing against East Louisville, but right by the malls. I mean, traffic is an issue. So moving them around to satellite locations, even if we can't get them all in the same place, would be really a great benefit, and I think it would make our work more efficient and effective.
Thank you. Councilman Bratcher.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. I love your mission, and I've heard a lot about you through the years. But we had a project about 5 years ago, or we wanted a project 5 years ago where we were going to put Bardstown Road, we were going to put trees in the middle of Bardstown Road in the medians out towards Fern Creek area, that's my area. And went through the fire district, and they wanted a beautification or whatnot. And then we called your group and was told, now I may be wrong, I don't know, I don't want to think of it in negative terms just going forward. They said, we don't work out there, we only work in the urban service district.
That wouldn't be us.
Huh?
That would not be Trees Louisville, because we work all over the county.
So if we were to do a project like that, would you be the one that we get a hold of?
Sure.
I mean, so like the Metro Council would come up with the funding on a beautification project and you guys would plan it, or do you all have money?
We always have to raise money for our projects. Everything that we do is funded by donated dollars or grant funding. For instance, we've done a project much like that on Hurstbourne Lane. And that was funded by Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. So we do have partners, Public Works, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, our individual donors, grant donors. I mean, so we do raise quite a bit of funding, but always help, especially when we're working on public right-of-way, is necessary. We'd love to help you. We can put you on our list for the fall.
So we reach out to you?
Sure.
And one last thing, Madam Chair, is, so, and then also, so let's say there's a condo development and they have a dead tree and they want to remove it, and they had a hard time removing it. They had to go through the arborist. Is that you guys?
No, that probably, if it was on public property, that was probably urban forestry, because as part of the public tree protection ordinance, any tree that is requested to be removed on right-of-way, public property, needs a permit. And that's just so the arborist can come out and inspect the tree to ensure that it is in poor health and needs to come out. They wouldn't want to take out a tree that was perfectly healthy in the
So
right-of-way.
that's only, if it's private, then they could do it.
Yes, you can do whatever you want on your private property.
All right, well, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Councilman Lenninger.
Good to see you again. I think I've spoken to you more than anyone else since I have taken office. I just
I
wanted
don't
to
know
say
how to take that.
it's all been positive.
Okay, good.
That it seems that your board is very active and very involved and doing a lot of good work in the community. So I just wanted to get that on the record. It seems like you guys have a board that's functioning very well.
Oh, we do. I love our board of directors. They're a little hands-off, which is wonderful, because that way we can just do our work. But all we have to do is pick up the telephone, and they're behind us all the way. They've been great.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. So have you guys, I will say.
Councilman Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do remember the dialogue with regard to the tree ordinance back in 2017. It was a long process, and there was a lot of input from a lot of disparate groups, building association, realtors, et cetera. So I guess my question is, it's been, 8 years since then? how do you see us progressing as a city? And do you think that, that we need to go back and take a look at this ordinance, tweak it in some ways? How are we meeting the goals that you and your organization have laid out?
That's a really good question, and it was an arduous 2 years getting this ordinance done. And it started out with 54 pages and got down to 14. So, I mean, it's all good. I think that there are some little tweaks. You know, again, it was written when there was when it was the Division of Community Forestry, and now it's Urban Forestry. So just those sorts of language changes need to be made. So there's that. The other part of your question is, as a city, we are doing amazing things. I mean, passing this ordinance in 2017, revising some of the language in the Land Development Code was huge too. And I think that all of us working together over that period of time when we were, when there was a little bit of contention perhaps, I think that that created all sorts of light bulb moments. And I love that I hear that when a project comes to planning and zoning and they're not preserving 20% of the canopy, that you guys say, oh no, go back and bring us 20%. I mean, I think that those things are really, really important. And we got really positive feedback from all the work that we've done over the last year on the Urban Forest Master Plan. And I think that it really does give us some strong recommendations for how we can move forward and do an even better job.
And I remember there was a lot of compromise on that ordinance, and there was a lot of give and take. And I think that 20% number was 30%. And then we eventually compromised and went to 20%. So let us know how we can help, you know, and who might take the lead in terms of doing some tweaking to the ordinance, if nothing else, just to get some language changes. But I'm happy that you're saying that you feel as though we're making good progress as a city.
We are, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And,
Councilman
and be
Winkler.
careful what you ask, because I'll be at your door.
Councilman Winkler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Cindy, good to see you. I was just going to say, in response to Councilman Bratcher's comments, I know you mentioned the Hurstbourne Road. I think you all also did on LaGrange Road in my district for us. So certainly just do stuff out east. The issue, Councilman Bratcher, may have been, I know one of the challenges that we have trying to plant trees and medians is, particularly on state roads like Bardstown Road, KYTC has been very difficult to work with. Trying to plant trees in the medians. And Cindy, I've got a project where I want to do some tree planting along Westport and more on Hurstbourne, and may need to pull you in to bring some extra muscle with KYTC.
That is not a problem. Actually, that's one of the other things that I think to Councilman Reed's question that has really changed. I mean, 10 years ago when Trees Louisville started, KYTC did not allow tree planting on roadways. And then we've done 400 plus trees along Bardstown Road inside the Urban Services District, and we will be outside the Urban Services District next fall. And Hurstbourne is a great example. Westport Road, we just planted about 50 or maybe 70 trees along Westport Road. So I think that that's one of the big changes, is partnering with an organization like KYTC to be able to provide more canopy, especially in these corridors that are so important.
And we've got Councilman Bratcher.
Last question. My brother used to live in Atlanta, and they used to brag about being the city of trees. Have you ever heard that? Is there a ranking of cities that are, I mean, I think it's great to have.
There is, and we, in the master plan, we made a lot of comparisons with what are considered our peer cities, and Atlanta is one of our goals at Trees Louisville. Trees Atlanta started with one individual, like we did at Trees Louisville, and 40 years later, they have more than 90 employees. That's a goal for me, right? And interestingly, Atlanta is a very small, their city actually is very small, so they can count more than we can with our 397 square miles, right? But we're doing good. We're doing okay. I heard that dinger.
Thank you, thank you.
Shepherd's Crook.
Well, thank you so very much, Ms. Sullivan, for being here, and thank you for all of your work, and I look forward to our next meeting.
Okay, thank you, and thank you very much for your support.
course, thank you. And just for my colleagues to know, we had identified a list of 8 boards and commissions that we wanted to bring in that kind of like, we're at the top of almost a grading system that we had identified in terms of largest board, smallest board, boards that take compensation, ones that are under Louisville Metro ordinance and not KRS. And I just want to let you all know that now that we have heard from the Tree Advisory Commission, that we have exhausted that list. And so congratulations to us. We've done a really great job because it's not only those 8, but we also had 2 additional ones with the zoning board and then the parks board, zoning appeals board, so sorry. So I just want to let you know that we are making progress, and my office is working on a list and batching the next, our next meetings. And so we're going to try and go with a theme for our meetings. So one might be housing, one might be zoning, one might be public works. And so just so we can kind of stay in the same theme. And so today, since we're talking about trees, next up we're going to have the Air Pollution Control District. And so today we're kind of going into this sustainability and waste. I know that those are kind of conflicting, but as our next speaker is making their way up, I do want to let you all know that the Air Pollution Control District is under KRS statute, also under a local ordinance. They meet on the 3rd Wednesday of each month, and they have 7. Their maximum number of members is 7. They do not have any vacancies right now. And with that, I will hand it over to Rachel Hamilton.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here with you tonight, and I am joined by Steve Sullivan, who serves as the Air Pollution Control Board Chair. Mr. Sullivan is here. Good evening. So in 1945, addressing issues with respect to coal pollution and other soot that was visible in the air, the city of Louisville stood up something called the Smoke Commission. At that time, we actually measured air pollution with buckets hung on light poles, and we used a ruler. Following the Donora, Pennsylvania, and London killer fog, in 1952, the General Assembly authorized the adoption of KRS Chapter 77, which allows for the creation of a district in any county in the Commonwealth that finds itself so polluted. Since then, we are the first and only air pollution control district in the Commonwealth. We'll let that get started.
Are we waiting on a presentation?
We are.
Okay.
Thank you. Ready, Matt? Next slide, please. I really like this slide. I am a visual learner, and this is really helpful for people to be able to see. That's actually pictures in the lower quarter of 4th Street at midday. And that's not a storm, that's actually soot. We have stories of gentlemen who would bring 2 shirts to work to change in the afternoon because their collars would become soiled. The picture in the upper quadrant is from the 1970s. Next slide, please, Matt. How is the district organized? Since through the City-County Compact and now merger, the district remains a separate body corporate and politic and retains all of the authority and functions granted to it under KRS Chapter 77. Through both KRS Chapter 77 as well as Louisville Metro Ordinance Section 32.675, Louisville Metro government is our administrative, fiscal, and funding authority, or our hiring, firing, and funding partner. And the Air Pollution Control Board is our regulatory authority. District staff are Metro employees. We're currently about 50 employees, and we include engineers, scientists, and other professionals. The district's work includes monitoring and collecting air quality data, developing and implementing policies and regulatory programs to reduce air pollution, issuing and enforcing the air pollution permits that contain our regulatory provisions, and educating and assisting, both through things like Kentuckiana Air Education, or CARE, which you may be familiar with, and also through our small business environmental assurance compliance program. Back one more. We report to a variety of people. That includes the Air Pollution Control Board, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Kentucky Division for Air Quality, Louisville Metro government, and of course, stakeholders. We are funded from a variety of sources, including federal grants, program permit and emissions fees, and also Metro funding. Next slide. With respect to our work with US EPA, we implement here the Federal Clean Air Act through something called cooperative federalism. EPA sets the standards, and then state and local air pollution control agencies develop the plans to meet those standards. In 1970, the focus were literally on things you could see, ubiquitous pollutants like ozone and particulate matter. In 1990, the Clean Air Act was amended to include control measures for air toxics, national emission standards for hazardous air pollutants, as well as the Title V operating permit program. And in 1999, it was further amended to include chemical accident prevention and the risk management plan program. And we've been here since 1952, so when the cabinet was started in 1969, the General Assembly put us together, and we have to work with them through something called concurrent jurisdiction. Our regulations stand in place of state regulations here in Louisville. They have to be at least as stringent as the states, but there is an important distinction. We can be more stringent. We'll talk about one place where we're more stringent here in a moment. Several years ago, the Cabinet did return their risk management plan program to US EPA, but given the collection of sources that we have here in Louisville, we believe it's important for us to retain the risk management plan program. Next slide. So our board is our regulatory authority. They approve the regulations that go into those plans that we use to meet the air quality standards. As Ms. Chappell said, we have a board meeting every month on the third Wednesday of each month at 10 a.m. We meet virtually, and you can join us in person if you prefer. There are two standing committees, a policy and strategy committee, and they meet as needed to update the district's regulations. The board also recently completed an ad hoc committee review of its bylaws and recommended some changes there. More information about our board can be found on our website. I'd also like to thank Metro Council for approving the appointment of Candace Shobe White last night for another term. Next slide. The board's responsibilities are to pass our regulations. They also issue board orders for violations recommended for settlement by the district. They issue enforceable board agreements in which a party agrees to take certain action to reduce air pollution. And they hold public hearings on proposed regulations, board orders, and other air pollution issues. They also serve an adjudicatory role. Issues where the district can't reach settlement or the board doesn't approve a settlement go through an administrative hearing. They also manage the Air Quality Trust Fund for special environmental projects. Those are very limited projects. Right now, there's about $13,000 in the Air Quality Trust Fund. On our website, you can see the type of projects the board has approved in the past. They can be used for special air quality, research, and education programs, but they cannot be used to support the district's work. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back one. The district's role. In KRS Chapter 77, when we were a unified board and district, APCD is required to provide certain staff members to the board. This includes technical expertise through something called an air pollution control officer. They are a licensed professional engineer. For our board, we offer two air pollution control officers, one for permitting, the other for enforcement and compliance, because there's a lot of work that gets done between the two. We also offer administrative support through a secretary treasurer. When we were a unified body, those staff members were full-time members of the board's staff. Now that we have support from Metro government on the administrative side, our air pollution control officers and our secretary treasurers have other full-time jobs. Our air pollution control officers are the managers of the permitting and compliance enforcement programs, and our secretary treasurer is our regulatory coordinator who develops our rules and regulations. We also have a dedicated Jefferson County attorney who specializes in the Clean Air Act and serves as the board's parliamentarian. We prepare the board's materials and for both their meetings and the public hearings. And then we offer an update on amended federal regulations that may affect our program air quality, complaint investigations, community engagement and outreach, enforcement, and concerns from the community and regulated sources. Public participation is a hallmark of environmental work, and our board and the district take that to heart. The board offers, as part of its regular monthly meeting, an opportunity for the community to come and speak to them on any concern related to air pollution. Next slide, please. Each month, the board receives
I know that there's a few more slides, and we've only got 6 minutes. And I know it's a tight timeline, but
Well, we're really close. Let me
Yes,
finish up here with two things. First, we send a lot of material to our board. We post it for the public the Friday before the meeting, and we review that material with our board each month on the day before the board meeting so that we're sure we have all the information he believes may be necessary for the board to consider. And next slide, please, Matt. This is an example of the work that the board does that goes beyond the federal and state programs. That is our Strategic Toxic Air Reduction Program. It is a specialized local program aimed at reducing the cancer and non-cancer risk from toxic air emissions. It came from a study that was done in and around the Rubbertown Industrial Corridor. Since the board adopted the program in 2005, countywide, those emissions of those toxic air contaminants have dropped about 85%. Of those chemicals that were most risky identified in that initial study, those are called Category 1 toxic air contaminants, and they've dropped more than 97% since 2005 when the program was adopted. Next slide, Matt. This last slide is a way for us to look at the progress that, with the board's support, we've been able to make in air quality here in Louisville. Air quality is a measure of economic health as well as quality of place, and good air quality matters. Black line you see is our gross domestic product here in Louisville. You'll see that all of the pollutants that are listed below that have dropped significantly since 2001, and we continue to see reducing trends. Are there any questions? Last slide, Matt.
Councilman Reed?
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming. And I'm old enough to remember those days in the 1970s with heavy smog. You thought you were in Los Angeles, for crying out loud. But Mike, I have one question. You've heard a lot about reformulated gas in the city and the fact that it does cost the citizens of the city more than if you went to Bullitt County or if you went to I don't know, Taylorsville or whatever. So, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I just wanted to know what your opinion is.
It's time for us to remove RFG, and we've been working on non-interference demonstration to be able to do that. With respect to where it's used, it's actually used here in Jefferson County as well as portions of Bullitt and Oldham counties. And so we've been working with US EPA, who has ultimate approval to remove RFG, as well as the Kentucky Division of Air Quality for their role in removing RFG from Bullitt and Oldham counties. And we have petitioned EPA, which is the first step in removing RFG. We did that at the end of January through the governor's office. And we should have that non-interference demonstration out for public comment here within the next 2 weeks. We are waiting for the cabinet to finish dotting some I's and crossing some T's on the Bullitt and Oldham County portion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Leninger?
Thank you. One of the questions I have is, how politically independent is this board? Because, I guess I'll be more specific. So one of the board's responsibilities is to, is on policy and discussions on public interest about air pollution control issues. About a month ago, the mayor, put forward that he wants to have our reformulated gas removed from Louisville's systems, the regulated requirements. Has there been any discussion, since that was, as an item in the news, obviously it relates to air quality, have there been any motions to have that be something that's brought towards the community?
So as a practical matter, there will be an opportunity for public comment on the proposed removal of RFG. So that's coming when we go out for public comment here in the next couple of weeks. Be a 30-day public comment period. And we look forward to hearing from the community about RFG. We are replacing RFG. We're not removing it outright. We have some surplus emission reductions from LG&E's shutdown of Mill Creek Unit 1. And what we're doing there is substituting one emission measure for another. And that submittal that we put out will explain that and give folks a chance to weigh in on that. For our board, 1952 required political party parity. So our board has a political requirement. Our board currently meets that. I'm especially proud of our board, and I really appreciate Metro Council's help in having the board members we have. Not only are they community members from across Louisville Metro, but they also bring a wealth of knowledge. For example, Chair Sullivan is a professional geologist. Brownfield's programs consider risk like our strategic toxic air reduction program. We have a professor emeritus from the University of Louisville Speed School who actually taught several of our engineers air pollution control, pulmonologist, and several other board members who bring a unified strength to looking at the work that we do.
Okay, but in the board's work, it's not really, policy advocacy then? It's more in terms of just putting it out there for the public and they should take that for example, the fact that we have, a study recently said that we have the second worst ozone pollution in our region, but we have a proposal that would reduce one of our tools to address air pollution control issues.
Replace, not reduce.
Well, but
With
we're changing one item out for another when we could just do both.
Let me go ahead and just say that with respect to our board, places where we've had opportunities for robust advocacy include that strategic toxic air reduction program. What the district's obligation is as we move forward with policy discussion is to provide the board with information, data, the study that we did, the West Louisville Air Toxic Study. Same thing with the proposal that we'll put together to replace RFG with these quantifiable enforceable surplus emission reductions from elsewhere. With respect to ozone, it is a challenge. The standard continues to tighten. That is good for public health. It is part of the continuous improvement process that is the Clean Air Act in action. And we believe that it's a supportable recommendation from the district. US EPA has the ultimate decision with respect to removing RFG. So, any other questions?
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I appreciate your thorough presentation and also your delivery. It makes me feel like you maybe had a background in news. So great job there.
Thank you.
And I do just want to identify that Chair Stephen Sullivan is the geologist, right? No.
Yes.
Okay, because Miss Cindy Sullivan was sitting behind you, and I just didn't know if that was an accolade that she also had.
This one, not that one.
Geologist
Thank you.
Sullivan, yes. So thank you so much. We'll follow up if we have any questions. Next up, we have the Hazardous Materials Ordinance Appeals and Overseers Board. This does not have as a KRS authority, but it does have a federal statutory authority. Basically, it doesn't require us to have one, but in order to unlock federal funding, we need to have it. There is a local Louisville ordinance. They meet biannually, so they only meet twice a year. And they have a maximum number of 9 members and no immediate vacancies. And I believe that we have MSD Operations Director. Oh,
No,
hi, Wes Sidner.
no.
Hello.
You
I'll
downgrade.
give the floor to you.
Okay. Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks for the committee. I'm Wes Sidnor. I'm the Chief of Government and Public Affairs for Louisville MSD, and I'm just going to tee this off and hand it over to our Vice Chair for this committee in a second. If you want to, let's go to the next slide real quick. So just quick overview. One of the first questions that we seem to get is why MSD? Why is this under the MSD umbrella? And so I have to describe this verbally, but in the early 80s, okay, you can see it now. 1981, the sewers exploded in Louisville. Probably all of you are too young to remember that, but, that was caused by an industry dumping hexane into the sewers. There's lots of debate on what caused that to ignite. It could have been a discarded cigarette butt, or a backfire from a vehicle, or a spark of some sort. There are lots of theories on that, but the issue with it was that there was dumping of that material and that chemical into the sewers. And so in response to that, at the time, the Board of Aldermen and Jefferson County Commissioners and the city and county came together and decided that there needed to be more robust controls and oversight over materials handling, hazardous materials. And so at that point in time in 1985, as what we believe is a direct result of that sewer explosion, that ordinance was created as a metro ordinance, and so you will have the control over that. If there are changes that need to be made, that's a process that this body can take on and administer. But at that time, Louisville MSD was assigned the role of administering agent for or agency for the HMO. And so this is a group that meets, again, with the support of MSD staff and resources, but it is a independent body, and I'm going to hand it over to our vice chair, Corrine Greenberg, to get into the details. And we have a team here to answer technical questions or things that come up with the administration of the ordinance.
Thank you, Wes. My name is Corinne Greenberg. I am the vice chair of the board. I'm no relation whatsoever to the mayor. I was initially appointed to the board in 2020 by Mayor Fisher. Yes, the ordinance has three key provisions. The first one is it requires when a hazardous material is released above its reportable quantity, it compels the regulated entity, in this case would be whoever had the release, whoever had the incident, to immediately notify the local authorities so the local response can be made. That's the first provision. The second provision is all of the regulated entities within the community need to have a hazardous materials use and spill prevention control plan, an HMPC plan, on file with MSD. I myself am a representative of a regulated entity, so at the facility level, we prepare our HMPC application. We provide the information to MSD with what hazardous materials we have at our facility, where we have it, how much we have, so that if there were an incident, they would already have that material, that information on file, and it drives the response, so having the coordinated plan. And the third thing that the ordinance does is it's for MSD to administer and enforce the plan, so that when an incident does occur, MSD is the responding agency in charge from a local response perspective. They do administer the plan program, make sure that we submit timely applications and that they turn around and convert those into implementable plans, and they do follow up with enforcement. So MSD does respond to all hazardous materials incidents within the city. They can be called by the fire department to a scene. They will prepare the preliminary response report, and then they will investigate the incident findings and summarize that. As the board, the Appeals and Overseers Board, we do meet twice a year. Our purpose is advisory. We can be called into special session if there is an appeal, if an aggrieved party feels that the enforcement action or the administration is not fair, they can ask for an appeal that would come before the board. We did have a meeting scheduled a few years ago, and then right before the meeting date, the two parties reached a settlement, so we didn't have to issue any opinion in that case. But we basically do provide that appeals process. Otherwise, we discuss at our meetings if there's a question to reportable quantities, if there's a question about incidents that may have happened or the implementation of the plan, if there's a clause of the hazardous materials ordinance itself that may come into question, we can discuss that. We do review the incidents that have happened in intervening period between our meetings. We do have 9 members. 4 of us are representatives of regulated facilities. 3 are representatives of an agency, including our chair, Connie Mendel, who's employed by the Louisville Metro Public Health and Wellness. And we have 2 more members who are representatives of the general public. We serve 4-year terms, and we can be reappointed to succeed ourselves. These meetings are regular, twice a year. Like I said, we can be called into a special session if necessary. Quorum is a majority, so 5 of the 9 must be present. If there's a conflict of interest, if, for example, my facility was either the question of discussion, or if my facility wanted to appeal a question, I would, of course, recuse myself from that, and the rest of the board would decide on that. The meetings are noticed, and public notice is given. The meeting agendas are posted well in advance, 30 days at least in advance, on the MSD website. At our meetings, we do approve the minutes of the previous meeting. We do have standing agenda items, who's there, what's old business, do we have any new business. We talk about the incidents that have been reported in the intervening period per the hazardous materials ordinance. And then we review MSD's annual report for specific to the ordinance. And I have most of the MSD or the MSD administration team here if we have any questions from the council.
Absolutely. Anyone have any questions? Yes, Councilman Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming. And one of the great things about this whole exercise is that we're learning a lot, and I'm learning just by this presentation. So how many hazardous material incidents do we normally have, let's say in a 2 to 3 month period? Is this something, are we talking about one weekly, one daily?
Oh, yeah, I'm Michael Moore. I'm the Operations Director for Support Services in MSD. So we typically have 200 incidents a year. That's roughly what we respond to. Now, some of those are not all of those are HMO incidents. And an HMO incident is a hazardous materials ordinance incident. Some of those fall under our wastewater or stormwater discharge regulations. So what we provide to the HMO board are those specific incidents that are directly related to the hazardous materials ordinance. And they may be half of those, it may be less. Most of those are late reporting incidents that in other words, there's an incident, they have 15 minutes to report it to 911, and they report outside of that incident time. But we have overall about 200 incidents a year.
And what triggers a violation normally?
So there are specific requirements under the regulation that states that you must report immediately upon discovery of a hazardous materials incident. And a hazardous materials incident would be a reportable quantity as either defined within the ordinance or defined through federal code that's referenced within the ordinance. And that 15 minutes also comes from federal code. So it says immediate, but that's defined as 15 minutes. There are additional parts to it. So the management of the HMPC plan, the Hazardous Materials and Spill Prevention Control Plan, is part of the management of the hazardous materials, and it has information in there regarding how you control a spill. It has information in there about the inventory of hazardous materials, and it has information about how it's contained. So if we find during the investigation that we find that training wasn't done or they didn't follow the HMPC plan, that would be a violation also.
Okay.
But those are types of violations out of the HMO. Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm looking at your website and just looking at some of the incidents that occurred. A transformer fire, 2 of them were motor vehicle accidents, a tornado damaged poles with transformers, just various things within this. And you identify the responsible party. And I'm just curious, are these entities, when available, being fined? And if so, how much money does that kind of equate to on an average, and where does that money go?
Yeah, and fines, there are not that much fines, and within the actual HMO, and I'm glad you asked this question because it kind of leads me into something else too, but there are fines up to $5,000. That's the max that we can fine out of the HMO. There has been a lot of discussion. Now, our current version of the HMO is from 2007. It's outdated, it has some ambiguities, which causes us, as the administrating agency, some problems occasionally. In addition to that, there has been concerns from the mayor's office, from industry, and even from regulatory agencies about how things might need to change. We're in a different world from 2007. You know, just like we've improved our transparency, we provide that on the page, and that was only since we started in 2023, we started providing all that information outright on that web page for the general public to see. But within the HMO itself, there are questions, and I think there is a real good reason to open up the HMO. That has to be sponsored, I think, by a council person. We have to have a lot of input from the general public, from the industry, from the regulatory agencies, and of course from local government on how that gets revised. But there are a lot of questions about it. $5,000 in 2007, that might have been all right today, and it may need to exceed. So on our wastewater stormwater discharge regulations, for instance, we can fine up to $37,500. We have a $5,000. So if something's really egregious or something needs to be done, a larger amount of fine might be appropriate. But we don't have that ability under the HMO to do that right now. There's also concerns about how maybe enforcement action should be implemented. How should that be? Should every incident have a enforcement action attached to it? Because sometimes it's not really necessary. I mean, somebody reported in 16, 17 minutes, they tried to report it. But under the big picture, we don't have the flexibility to look at something and go, it's 16 minutes. It's outside of the 15-minute window. That's how things are. We evaluate it. We look at the preliminary response report. So that would be, typically we would identify that as a notice of violation, and we would issue a notice of violation, but there probably would not be a fine attached to that. Unless there's been multiple incidents over the course of a year, we would look at it and assign a fine.
So in 2024, how many fines were taken in?
There were 3, I've got that right here as a matter of fact, because I thought you might ask that. We had $6,000 fines total. So we can max fine as $5,000, but we don't, total last year was $6,000. Most of our incidents are one-time late reporting. So, and the industries might come back to us and say, we were involved with trying to stop the incident or take care of the incident. It doesn't, within the scope of the HMO itself, it doesn't really provide us with that ability to make that call. So we do send them a notice of violation. And what that does is if there is a multiple violation for that within that time frame, we'll fine them in the second time for being outside of the scope.
Should the HMO meet more than twice a year?
So the question, that's a good question too. So part of when you start looking at the purpose of it, and the specific purpose of it is to talk about appeals. We've had, as Corinne talked about, we've had one appeal. I've been at MSD for 20 years, and I've been working in this same department for 20 years. So what we don't see is we don't see a lot of appeals, and we don't see a lot of requests to change the policies and procedures for the HMPC plan, for instance. So there is a real valid reason to have the board. There is the chance or the opportunity if somebody needs to to have an appeal or to do an appeal and have that appeal process available. I think that if we're talking about opening up the HMO and really looking at what we're doing, I think that the board, based on some of the concerns and some of the maybe differences that might happen or changes that might happen in the HMO, I think that the Appeals and Overseers Board would have more, we would probably see more appeals, because if you're talking about more enforcement, if you're talking about more fines, and I don't know what else that would entail, when you're talking about those types of things happening, then you're going to start seeing more of the appeals and more of the things that the board really has a part of making decisions in. Now, I will say that the decisions that the board does make, they're non-binding advisory and recommendations only.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we're out of time today, but we will follow up with any other questions. So thank you so much for all of your time and information. It was truly enlightening. Thank you. All right. Last but not least, we have the Waste Management District 109 Board. This is under KRS statute as well as a Louisville Metro ordinance. They meet on the fourth Wednesday of every month, and they do generate revenue. They have a maximum of 7 members and no immediate vacancies. And I will hand this over to to Pete Flood, who's here to discuss. And I do just want to mention that I know that we're over on time, so thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here, but we'll try to get out of here as soon as possible.
Thank you. Pete Flood, Executive Director of the Louisville Waste District, and also Assistant Director of the Department of Public Works Solid Waste Management Services. So the Waste Management District is an important board that has a regulatory history. It was created back in '91 based upon a House bill that said that there was some problems with waste that's coming into the future, and it created planning agencies to be able to do this. And based upon that, Louisville Fiscal Court created the Waste Management District in '91. It designated Jefferson County as its own planning area, created the board, and it delegated powers. That powers were again reaffirmed in 2005 after merger. So it is currently in Louisville Metro Ordinance 51. The board is created, has 7 members, 3 county commissioner districts, an urban services district, 1 representative home rule cities, one of the representative from the waste industry, and someone from the unincorporated area that does not live in a city. So it also has an advisory committee that is balanced with industry representatives, environmental groups, home rule cities, government, and citizens. So anything that comes from that advisory committee has been well discussed before it gets back to the board. Lots of times people can get confused about the waste management district versus solid waste management services. So this is a diagram of kind of the separation of the way it's supposed to work. Of course, ordinance created it. It is a non-taxing district. It has an executive director that is a liaison between Waste Management District and Metro government, and typically works through a memorandum of agreement. The employees that do the waste district's work are Metro government employees. So you can see one side is pretty much a countywide solid waste type of a service and planning, and the other side is more service delivery. Some of those functions countywide, some of those functions USD or CBD. So the Waste Management District gets its funding through license fees, 5% on gross receipts at landfills, 2% of gross receipts from transfer stations, recycling and compost facilities and waste haulers. It's a set annual fee. So it's basically the places that have disposal is the ones that pay the majority of the license fees for the Waste Management District. And the recovery things are typically things that cost less. The mission, strategies, policies, programs as part of the five-year plan, creating awareness and commitment, minimize adverse effects on the public health and safety, and providing a efficient, cost-effective waste and recycling system for the future. Some of the things that it's done in the past, it mandated residents have garbage service. It also requires waste haulers to offer recycling and composting. It banned the landfilling of yard waste to save space. And more recently, that plastic bags could not be used in the collection for set out of yard waste at the curb. It just couldn't be used. It couldn't be composted. And it also does a community host agreement, which this is an agreement that says where the waste can come from. If anybody's been around long enough to remember the sewer explosions, maybe you'll remember that there were garbage trains that were coming from other parts of the country, filling up other people's landfill. This host agreement is one of those things that kind of prevents some of that from happening. Everything we do is on our website. You have all of the agendas, minutes, all those things that are there. You can see that we have a hand in many different things. Specifically, education is a really big one. The guiding document for the Waste Management District is the 5-year Solid Waste Management Plan, which is a state required plan. It looks at the waste generation projections for 5, 10, and 20 years, and it gets capacity assurance, making sure that the county has a place to take its waste for that foreseeable future. It looks at the different segments of the waste industry, from collection, disposal, recycling, open dumps, litter, waste siting, and enforcement. And it gives us strengths and weakness and an action plan to improve that. Of course, it goes through a rigorous public input process. We're currently in about the middle of our last 5-year plan. We also have to do annual reports. A lot of information goes into those reports. I won't get into much detail. Some of the things that the Waste District does: drop-off services. It has mainly 3 assisted service recycling facilities. It also has a hazardous materials drop-off site at 7501 Grade Lane, and then there's 14 Metro government self-service sites all throughout the county. Most recent one, Aiken Road, paid for the license fee, the monthly lease paid for through the Waste Management District, even though it's a Metro government facility. No, we're looking at one out on Lower River Road right now. Some of the other programs, the Recycle Right tagging program, trying to reduce contamination, which it has been showing a lot of promise, reducing contamination in the recycling that goes to the material recovery facility, which is our goal. Less contamination means more value for the material. It has a Recycle Coach program. It is definitely involved in working with illegal dumping with Metro government and the Department of Public Works. The Waste District has funded many of the surveillance cameras that are around town that Metro government utilizes. It also helps to publicize when we do get an impound, which we're doing okay on it. We need to get a little bit better, but you can see that when we do get an impound, it is put on the social media, and we've had a lot of success with our program there. Has a lot of education and outreach programs. Any of those are available to the community. We have an ambassador program that tries to amplify our message. People come in, take 9 weeks of classes to learn about solid waste, and then they help us out at events, or they're out there helping to spread the message on what we need to do. Litter reduction, of course, that's part of that 5-year plan. The Waste District's part of this in the past has been paying for litter cleanups on the expressways where the state doesn't do litter collection during the winter months. It has recently been working really hard on anti-litter messaging, and we'll have some more messaging coming out this fall. So it's doing quite a bit there. We try to work with our partners, Brightside and Solid Waste Management Service and Public Works. The Waste District has an agreement with the Department of Public Works to help conduct pop-up drop-offs. The pop-up drop-offs were something that the Waste Management District has wanted to do for a long time. It purchased a truck and dumpsters for the unstaffed centers for Metro government in exchange for doing these pop-up drop-offs. Many of you know about these pop-up drop-offs. They're hugely popular. Last year, almost 5,000 people visited and dropped off material, whereas we recovered 54% of it, which is highly successful compared to where we were. These are just some of the current measures that the Waste District maintains. How we're doing at curbside collection. We're currently sitting as a county at 15.9% of the material collected at the curb gets recycled or composted. You can see that unfortunately our recycling rate is decreasing. Chart's a little misleading. It's not went down a whole lot. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with that. Some of it can be reduced contamination, but you know, it's not like we're getting less people to be recycling because we do keep curbside availability rates. 97.3% of the people are estimated to have garbage service. That equates to about 6,000 people that don't. They're primarily going to be in uncontracted areas, so subscription areas. And then, you know, 57.2 people have recycling available. It doesn't mean they utilize it. So like in the Urban Services District, everybody has it available. A lot of home rule cities, it's available, but people will choose to use it or not. Our recycling rate, the countywide, not necessarily the curbside rate, but also peddlers and many of the other avenues that take place out there. We're sitting at about 27.8%, which is good, still under what we would want to be nationally. I think they're sitting at about 33%, so we are making progress.
So we
we're
only
just
have
not
about
there.
4 minutes left in this, so we can, of course, go over, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time. But I know that there's a lot of folks with questions.
Yeah, okay. We can stop and do that. It's fine.
All right. You're invited to wrap up a thought if you
Okay.
wanted to, like,
Well,
leave
just
on a
several
banger.
high-level things. Creating technical assistance programs is one of the goals in this 5-year plan. Making standardized solid waste management messaging across the community. When you have unincorporated home rule cities, urban services, everybody doing things slightly different, it causes confusion as to what can be recycled and what can't. So we've been working, you can see down here on this graphic, we have enlisted all the different haulers to come up with similar messaging throughout, which should help recycling be less confusing. We are exploring the expansion and renewal of our staff sites. There's lots of things that we'd like to do. We'd like to get latex paint there, some hazardous materials. We would love to get document shredding at those locations, but we need to be able to plan those out accordingly. Probably the biggest one that we're doing right now is cost of services study. The goal of this study is to create a trusted set of facts on what the current status is, how much it costs if you're in a subscription area, the average cost in a home rule city, what it is in the urban services district. And we're creating this set of facts for the future, for people to be able to make decisions. We also want to see if there could be any benefits to organizing the subscription areas to those individuals. But really what it comes down to is we're trying to create an impartial recommendations for improvements. The Waste District Board doesn't have any plans to do anything other than gather these sets of facts for people to look at. And that's pretty much my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Flood. Councilman Bratcher.
Yeah, Mr. Flood, I've had great interaction with litter and illegal dumping. So far, I'm brand new to the council, but there's a group of people that came to me and said they have a lot of concerns with the 109 board. So I've got a lot of questions here. I won't ask them all today, but I am investigating. Can you tell me why there needs to be a board separate from Public Works?
Well, first and foremost, it was required through KRS that a county needed to be able to do its planning. Metro, the fiscal.
It required them to form a.
It requires the planning for solid waste, and it allowed for waste management districts to be created to do that. Fiscal court decided back in 1991 that they wanted to create this board, and they assigned it the responsibilities of solid waste planning. So that was the purpose and the reason that it has been here for all this time.
And how much overlap is there? I mean, is one of our recommendations, would it like break your heart if we went to Frankfurt and said, tell us that we don't have to do this anymore, that we could put this 109 board under Public Works Director and be done with it and not have a board?
Well, it would break my heart. I can't really comment on it in one way or another. I would say that there is benefit to having them both. I think that with some of the things that this board can do, grants and materials, and being advisory, I think that there's some benefits to that. It also, to a certain extent, I believe that if it was all under one Public Works Director, some people may feel that they don't have any representation and on a lot of the decisions. So
that's why they got a Metro Councilman, right?
Yeah.
And one last thing is the makeup of the board. There's been some people saying that people overextend their term limit, that there's not, that vacancies go on too long. Is there anything to that? I am going to just kind of start digging in and interviewing folks like you and just seeing if there's anything to that.
Well, I will say that
it
it is a free, or people don't get paid to sit on the board, and mostly where we've had trouble getting representation, it's been in Southwest Jefferson County. Previously, a position came open, and it's not as though we don't try to fill them, but it sat open for 2 years. And because we could not find anyone that was willing to serve in that role. So it's not necessarily that we want people to stay around, but we do want them to stay around until we can find a replacement. Mm-hmm. So it's just very difficult to fill some of the positions on the board.
All right, well, thank you. I'll be coming and talk to you more
Absolutely.
at your convenience. All right, thank you.
Does anyone else have any burning questions while we've got Mr. Flood in front of us? Yes, Mr.
Burning,
Councilman
but just
Kramer.
real quick. You mentioned the recycling rates are down a little bit, which I know is a bit discouraging. When I looked into the recycling a little bit ago, help me remember, is there more than one? When we recycle in Louisville, am I remembering correctly that all of our recycling ends up going to the same place, and that most of that recycling actually doesn't get recycled here in Louisville? It ends up being shipped?
So you have two, basically. You have West Rock Recycling, which is out off Industrial, and then you have Rumpke, who collects their customers, and that is a pre-sort here in town, and then it goes up to Cincinnati. To their spot. So
what about the other one?
So, yeah, all the material comes here, it's separated, it's put into different containers, and then it goes off to end users. So that end user can be a glass plant up in Dayton, or the biggest thing that West Rock does is corrugated cardboard, pizza boxes.
Right.
So a lot of their fiber goes into that. So there's a home for the material that's collected. Sometimes you have some contamination, obviously, that's not going to get to the place it needs to go. but, well, it's going to have to be paid for in landfill. But that rate here in town is about 8%, whereas if you listen to some of the other peer cities, that rate is so much higher. We're doing a really good job at lowering the contamination rate here.
But again, just to follow up, the most easily recycled item is corrugated cardboard. That's where it's easier to do. That's where the profit is. Aluminum, as I understand, is also easily recyclable. But when you get into glass and some of the plastics and some of the, especially with the different grades of plastics, my understanding is that even that both of the first, I'm not as familiar with the second as the first, but my understanding was that neither one of them is really doing a lot with the plastics and glass. Mostly what they're trying to do is pull out the corrugated, because that's where the real profit is, and they're trying to pull out the aluminum because that's the easiest one to recycle. And the rest of it, they're pretty much bundling, putting on a train and sending it to Cincinnati.
Oh, I don't know that it's going to Cincinnati. I do have a list of the locations where material goes. I'd be happy to
But it's
share
bundled
that.
and sent, right? It's not.
Yes.
So we're not actually, I think to your point, right, I think, and I don't know what the answer is, but as people are looking at recycling, I think people are starting to question some of the outcomes. And I don't know how we fix that. I don't know how we, rethink the outcomes, or I think there's a challenge there. And I know you guys are struggling with it, but.
Right, well, I will say that there's a lot of headwinds with the national news stories about recycling. What I would tell you is that we sit in the center of the country. Most of that was taking place on the coast that back-shipped the recyclables. And when China shut down a lot of what they was taking back, they started to look internal to the country. They lost a lot of their recycling stuff. We never really lost all of our people. Now, the price was different, supply and demand. But we have not necessarily lost our outlets for it. And recycling is very dependent upon the industry that is around you to make it viable. You can't ship a piece of glass to California and make it a good deal.
Thank you.
All right. We'll direct any other questions that we might have about the board to you at another time. Mr. Flood, I appreciate you being here. It's a wealth of information. And with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Myself was a runner from 2014, from the very original crew, up until 2019, where I retired and passed it on to the younger generation.
My grandma took me to the bed race. She took me to the Great Steamboat Race. We went to the parade every year. So it means something to me because I never thought I would be able to be a part of the parade. Why would I be a part of the parade? So that means something to me.
Growing up, I was real big of actually sitting at my grandma's house, just watching everybody go through the parade. To see them then and now to be a part of it, it means a lot. It's almost like I'm giving back to those who are looking forward to being in it in their future.
Any event, whether it's the parade or the bed race or anything that we have going on, it really is important for us to be involved in. For the city of Louisville to come out and support us,